Oh, you are live now. Okay.
Hello, everyone. It's Francis Widdowson here. I'm live at the University of Calgary at the what was the indigenization rock. The other one was the Palestinian flag rock, but that's been painted over with another issue. We do still have some Israel kinds of issues, divestment, which is a big issue with respect to the Israel-Palestinian conflict. So last week, or the last time we were here with Kathy Drake, and Kathy is here as well. We have another person coming to assist us with the Spectrum Street Epistemology. And for people who are unaware of this method, it was started by Peter Boghossian, who was an ex-professor from Portland State. He was a professor at Portland State. He resigned due to the autocratic maneuvers that were preventing him from discussing issues. The last time we were here, we were talking about reconciliation. We must have truth before we can have reconciliation, and Kathy Drake helped us with that exercise. What we have come to realize is that people who are critical of truth and reconciliation and the indigenization processes at the university are not very, sometimes, and this is something we're going to find out, are sometimes not very principled with respect to free speech on university campuses and in the wider society. So, with respect to the Israel-Palestinian conflict, for people who want to put forward their views on the Palestinian question and are pro-Palestinian, they're getting censored and shut down, and the people that you would expect would defend them are not defending them because they are pro-Israel. And so what we want to say to people is, you don't get to choose the issue if you are pro-free speech. You have to be able to allow people to discuss these issues regardless of what your own personal position is. And if you aren't able to do that, you need to be honest with yourself, and you need to say, I'm not really for free speech. I'm for free speech in ironic quotation marks when it supports the issue that I'm in favor of, but I'm opposed to it if it goes against what my position is. So this is what we want to do, is we want to expose the unprincipled character of people who are wanting to talk about free speech. So we had the truth and reconciliation question last time, indigenization. We were able to have an open and honest discussion about these claims. And now we want to talk about the Israel-Palestinian conflict. And the overarching claim that we want to start with is a claim that you often hear that is used to criticize what is being put forward by the Palestinian activists, which is Israel has the right to defend itself. That is the overarching claim, and what we're going to see is we're going to start with that claim, and then we're going to drill down. We're going to drill down on that claim, and we're going to see what other claims emerge out of it. So, Kathy, if you want to just come and introduce yourself in front of the camera. Maybe I should take a look. I just want to take a look and see what's
I just got a call from Rachel too, but I couldn't answer it because it would stop the stream. So
okay.
Maybe I should check with the other rock and see if she's there.
Okay, yeah. So, or just maybe step outside and call Rachel, see what's happening with her.
Well, I can't call from my phone because it'll.
Oh, okay. She's going to go check out the other rock because Rachel might have gone to the other rock. I'll let her do that.
But I'm Kathy, and I'll be right back.
Okay, so we're obviously doing this on the cheap here. We would have a cameraman and someone to help us with all the logistics if we had more resources, but this is just starting out on this question. I just want to take a look at some of these claims. So as I mentioned, we're going to start off with the overarching claim, which is about Israel having the right to defend itself, which you often hear from people who are supporting the Israeli position. But we're not taking a position on this matter with respect to spectrum street epistemology. What we want to do is we want people to be able to state claims, what they truly believe is the case. And what we're seeing on university campuses is that people aren't really able to do that because they're afraid of what's going to happen to them if they state what they think is true. So we're trying to give people the opportunity to do that. And when they make that claim, what they do...
The Tuesday, was it the Tuesday or the Wednesday after the Truth and Reconciliation? We had a great, I guess a great group of panelists who were willing to talk about the freedom of speech and the denialism act. Very good breath because I just walked over here. So yeah, Greg Wycliffe and I will be hosting another one, hopefully with Maxime Bernier, and have the PPC's view on all this. So.
Excellent. And Greg Wycliffe, if you're watching, I just wanted to give a shout out to him because I'm going to be connecting with Greg when I'm in Toronto, October 30th. We're going to do some spectrum street epistemology at perhaps York University, which is where I got my PhD. So I can just go back and revisit my glory days there, and we can talk about Bill C-63, which is one of the largest threats to freedom of speech in Canada today, and Greg is doing a lot of heavy lifting with respect to this issue, and so this is going to be great. Okay, so...
Rachel, you probably want to settle in a little bit.
Yeah, I just got in yesterday from Cranbrook, and before that I was in Chilliwack, and I'm just going to gather my thoughts, but I do have a lot more to say about this. You caught me off guard.
I'm so glad you're here.
We're so glad Rachel's here, and what we want to do now is we just want to use Kathy. We'll use Kathy to start with, but I just wanted to go over these claims. So, as I mentioned, the Israel has a right to defend itself. That perhaps is seen as a somewhat pro-Israel type of claim, but you could disagree with it. But some people are really concerned about the framing of these issues, and they say because I have stated that, that must be a pro-Israel type of claim. But we can have many, many others that we can look at. For example, Zionism is a threat to the Middle East, to peace in the Middle East. That's an example of what perhaps would be a pro-Palestinian claim. Let's just, one of my colleagues at MRU, Mark Ayash, was taken to task by, I think it was called Honest Reporting Israel, about Israel, and he said that the terrorist attack on October 7th was an expression of desperation. That was the claim that he made, and this group, which is a pro-Israel group, just sort of melted down about this and said this was terrible, and they wanted a whole bunch of letters to be sent to the MRU president about this claim. When Mark Ayash is a specialist in the Israel-Palestinian conflict, he has a point of view that he should be able to express, and he has the academic freedom to be able to express that view. So that's just some examples of some other claims that we could pursue, but we'll see where it goes. We're going to start off with the main claim, which is on the poster, which is Israel has the right to defend itself. So we got Kathy here. She's not out of breath, so she has she's been hanging around. So Kathy, go to neutral first of all, and then we're going to let you think about that for a minute. Israel has the right to defend itself. That's the claim. So Kathy, whereabouts would you move in terms of this situation? Okay. So Kathy has the strongly agree mat that she has claimed as her own. Let's hear it, Kathy. Why do you think that Israel has the right to defend itself?
I feel like Israel is kind of in a sea surrounded by countries who have a lot of animosity towards Israel, and I think that whether it be a state or an individual, if you have aggressors in any sort of capacity, you have a right to defend yourself from harm. I don't think that anyone should take abuse on any level, or I don't think a state should take any sort of abuse. But then to what degree do you defend yourself? That would be the question. So if you made the question more complex, perhaps my position would change.
Okay, so that was just we're at the surface of this matter. So this kind of brings us to a bit of a crossroads here when we had that claim, because we can have two possibilities here to drill down, what Peter Boghossian calls drilling down on this claim. One is I could ask Kathy some questions to get just to figure out what she really means. She's already kind of hinted that she's not entirely comfortable with this claim because there's a lot of unanswered questions which arise out of it, and that is concerns the right. So what do we mean when we say one has a right? Is that a legal term? Is it a moral term? The other is defend oneself, defend itself, Israel, defending itself. So defense, like how do we know? So I guess that's the next question. I think it's a more complex one. What do you mean by defense? Like how do we know when something is defense or if it turns into actually an act of aggression? Because we do see that sometimes when people are saying, I'm just defending myself,
Yeah.
but they're doing things which are not defending themselves. They're doing things which are actually making, going aggressing after other people or whatever it may be. So,
Do you want to ask the same thing of Rachel?
So come on. So Rachel now has had a few minutes to kind of calm down after her hurried attempts to come over here. So Kathy is on strongly agreed. So where would you sit on this matter?
Slightly disagree.
Okay, so this is good. It would be better if we had more polarized, because then we can get at it more. I could try and steelman the strongly disagree statement, but we'll see what we're going to have with the slightly disagree. So Rachel, why are you on the slightly disagree mat?
For Israel being able to defend itself.
Yes.
I feel like Israel oftentimes instigates issues. I feel with October 7th, there was a lot of, there may be conspiratorial, but I feel like they let their defenses down and allowed themselves to be attacked. In turn, getting more support from the Western nations. Again, I feel like it's almost like it's a bit of the wokeism where people are like trying to, use your emotions and compassion against you. I feel as if, they really do create a lot of issues in the Western world, and they're responsible for a lot. They're responsible for the banks. There's all kinds of things tied up with these people. I'm not entirely on the Jewish side. I'm not on Israel's side. So when they instigate and perpetuate these things, I think it's just a way to possibly erase Palestine to other nations, to get rid of them, and give them more of a stronger hold. I know that they are very involved with their Western nations.
Okay, so there's a lot to that, and maybe, and this is kind of a bit of a judgment call that has to happen from the facilitator. I'm inclined to let people talk, at length about their views, and then what I have to do now is, because you said a lot of things there, I need to sort of try to repeat to you what I think your position is, and then we can go from there, because I don't want to misunderstand you as to what you said. So this is part of the method, is that this is a big problem with discussions, is instead of trying to understand what the positions are, what we have is someone sets up what's called a straw man. And a straw man is not really the argument that is being made. It's a more superficial or perhaps even completely misrepresented position. And so, from what I heard that Rachel said, first of all, she is sort of perhaps a pro-Palestinian activist, or no? No, you're not?
I would say, yeah.
You lean towards the Palestinian side, though. So she leans towards the Palestinian side, because she thinks that Israel creates a lot of these problems because of their, well, one, I believe you mentioned something to do with banking. That was something that caught my attention and probably caught some of the members of the audience's attention. And there was another issue that you mentioned. It was besides the banks. It was something else.
Just controlling government. If you look at the U.S. government, a large percentage of them are Jewish. I feel like there's a lot of infiltration. I'm making a lot of shit for this, but that's okay. I feel like there's a lot of infiltration in our governments. And look at our own government. Look at the Conservatives and the Liberals and the NDP who pander to them. They're afraid of them. So I feel like they really work on the empathies and the compassion of the West to get them on their side, to make them even stronger, and to destroy these smaller places. Because,
but you seem to be, and it seems to me that you are equating the Jewish religion with Israel.
Right. Oh, no. I'll
So is that correct, or like because there are, first of all, Israel has a number of religions in it. I'm just trying to clarify these matters. As well, you have many Jewish people who are like Norman Finkelstein comes to mind.
I like it. Okay,
so Norman Finkelstein is his parents were Holocaust survivors, and I believe he said his entire family was exterminated in the Holocaust. But Norman Finkelstein also is known as one of the most staunch supporters of Palestinian rights. So therefore we can't really, so in terms of how do you relate Israel and Judaism or Jewishness or whatever? What is the relationship that you're trying to draw out there?
Okay, so I differentiate between them. I'm mostly speaking about, it's not about the Jewish people, it is about the Jewish state and the government. It is not about Judaism, it is not about anybody who actually, quite frankly, I know plenty of Jewish people who have spoken out against this war. They spoke out against Benjamin Netanyahu. They don't want any of this. So that's kind of where I lean. It's the government and the state. And
okay, so that sort of clarifies things a little bit. So the state of Israel, the people who are in control of the state, so we have the government, which is the Netanyahu government. We also have the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, so that's kind of the state, the military force of, and then we have the connection, that was the thing that caught my attention, the connection between the United States and Israel. So, okay, I'm going on too much here.
Go ahead.
Okay, so,
if she wanted to
okay, so
counteract.
I have to get back to the method here, but I just wanted to kind of clarify, because I know if we just left that hanging, we would have got a lot of upset, and I don't think that you were meaning it in that way, which it could be interpreted that way.
That's why I said I might get a lot of shit here,
Yeah.
but actually no, and I do need to emphasize that it's not. Sorry, emphasize that it's not the Jewish people, it's not the religion itself. It is the state, the IDF, Benjamin Netanyahu. This has been going on a long time. So I think most people understand, I would hope, but there are the Zionists and there are the people that are very pro-Israel, even our own government. So.
Well, you could see the evidence for her claim in the monetary support coming from these governments. That's why there's divest, right behind us on the rock.
Okay, so I'm just going to be collaborative here, because I got so intrigued by that whole what Rachel put out there as the reasons why she is slightly disagreeing. So in terms of moving, so this is now where we go with this. So we want to do this, and before I get on to the more claims and so on, what we do in Spectrum Street Epistemology is we want to see whether these claims are, your position on them is based on evidence or not. That is the key feature of Spectrum Street Epistemology. So, Kathy, is there anything that Rachel said that would make you move to a more disagreeable position than you're at?
Well, when she said that perhaps Israel let their guard down and allowed their own people to be taken as hostages, almost as a false flag, sacrificing their own in order to, or even if, let's say, they kind of shut down their Iron Dome to allow a few people to, be killed by rockets or anything like that. If they have anything like that, where there's, it's not in good faith that they're defending themselves.
Yeah, so if evidence came out, just to understand you correctly, if you saw evidence that there was actually, and not just incompetence, because that is one possibility here, so, and that's, I hear that with 9/11 discussions too, is that often you have distractions that exist and people are not, they're just taken unaware. But because people know that the Israel Defense Forces are so dialed in to possible threats, that's what has made some people a little bit suspicious. But hey, you can't be on guard 24/7. And it seems to me kind of I don't know about you, but would you say that is, it would be hard to keep that a secret, that kind of what would be considered to be a false flag kind of thing?
Well, if, let's say, the Israel government was silencing whistleblowers, perhaps maybe in like a North Korea sort of style way or something like that, they would be able to possibly keep something like that kind of under wraps, and there could possibly be a false flag. So if I saw evidence that they had any part in allowing their own people to be harmed, to garner support and sympathy from the area, and to beat the drums of war, I'm very pro-peace. I don't like seeing death and destruction, so I would move towards Rachel's side. I'd probably move to neutral.
Okay, so that's the evidence Kathy would need to move to the more disagreeable position, is some kind of evidence that it wasn't just an all-out attack that would have been resisted at all costs by Israel. Okay, Rachel, so you are on the slightly disagree, Matt. What would it take for you to move towards the more agreeable position?
I honestly don't. My gut, my heart, I think it would. Nothing's really saying that that they were innocently attacked. And again, yes, do they have the right to defend themselves? Of course. But they're the ones perpetrating this. They're the ones, I think, instigating. And I really just don't feel like it is it. Even letting their guard down, I think that's a load, because when you say, like, I mean, they're in a very volatile area. They've always been susceptible to attacks and war, so.
Okay, so let's just say that we did have evidence that, or somehow we knew, or we could have some kind of evidence that showed that they just were distracted by some other situation. So they had nothing to do with this. They were just caught unawares, and all these fighters came over, and now you have all these, what is it, 100, over 1,000, I think it was it's like 1,500 music festival people got killed. So what about that? Like, seems to me a big issue in these discussions.
I don't buy it. Again, for the government to have their Iron Dome, to be in a volatile situation with their grievances with Palestine, with Hamas, I don't buy it. I don't buy that they for 1 minute would let down their guard.
Okay, so I think I gotta start a new claim here, and this is gonna be a bit controversial. This claim, which is the October 7th attacks by Hamas, where I think it was 1,500 people were killed, and a lot of them were music goers at a music festival, just kids having fun at a music festival. That is justifiable. The October 7th attacks and the killing of all these, what many say were just innocent people having a good time, that is justifiable. Move.
Strongly disagree.
Yeah, no, I would strongly disagree that they were. I'm sorry. Can you repeat?
The October 7th attacks, which killed 1,500 innocent people, I think, something like that, that was justifiable. Where are you? Where are you on this?
Look.
So Rachel's on the slightly disagree, Matt, with respect to that claim.
Strongly disagree, slightly disagree. See, this is the thing. You're saying that you're asking me if I'm getting this right, that it was justified, even though maybe the attack was justified, but in the midst of that, they killed kids at the festival. And you're asking me if that's justified?
I'm asking you whether the October 7th attacks, if like the question is, did Hamas know that it was killing a whole bunch of just teenagers and so on out there having fun, right? That's what was going on. So it's possible that Hamas didn't, they just got caught up in all, with their weapons and everything, and they just killed everything, and they didn't really have a sense. But it seems to me we do have evidence that they knew that these were unarmed people who were just out there at a music festival, and they just killed them, indiscriminately anyway. So that's kind of what I think. And also other claims about, babies being killed and beheaded and rapes and so on happening.
I disagree with anything that would be justified in that.
So you're on the disagree, Matt.
Yeah, disagree. Innocent lives are going to be caught in the middle of any of these conflicts, and that can arise. But if they purposely went and targeted innocent kids, yeah, that's not justifiable.
Okay, so if I get your, just trying to summarize your position on this. So if you had evidence that Hamas deliberately targeted innocent people who had really nothing to do with everything that's going on in Israel, they were just there to, that to you is not just, but not strongly. You don't strongly disagree.
Again, because I know Hamas is a terrorist organization. Sorry, I know Hamas is a terrorist organization, and they really aren't, they're radicals. So I can understand why they would do something so horrendous, because they're a horrendous terrorist organization.
But what about the justifiable side of it?
They're angry people who have been locked in open-air prisons, so I understand they're human beings, and they're fighting, and if it, honestly, war and violence is not pretty. They're being, it's almost like a push comes to shove sort of thing, and if they have to do these tactics, maybe I can understand the mind of a sociopath or a psychopath who's, quite frankly, been imprisoned, and they're breeding kids like this in Palestine.
Okay, so just a question to try to understand this a little bit more. Is there anything that Hamas could have done that you would say would be unjustifiable? Like you seem to be saying that killing 1,500 people who were just having at a music festival or whatever the number was, that is, you think that that's somewhat justifiable because of, as you said, just so I don't misunderstand you, you're sort of saying because, and this is Norman Finkelstein's position, I heard him talking about this to some extent on Piers Morgan, I think. He was saying because of the kind of the what he called a concentration camp. These are not my words, but he said it's a concentration camp, and if you have people escaping from a concentration camp, then you can't really blame them if they go and kill a few prison camp guards and so on. But that's the military. If Hamas had just went in and killed the IDF soldiers, then okay, you would, I assume, be at this. You would strongly agree that that was justifiable.
Yes, but once again, we're dealing with extremists here. So if we know the monster, we can understand how evil they're going to be. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's right. They should play fair, but they're not. So I'm going to accept them for face value and what they did.
Okay, but so going back to the original, okay, this is going to be the new claim.
I wanted to try and.
Okay, so sorry, I'm getting too much into this. I'm trying to get at the nuances here and figure out what exactly is being talked about. So, Kathy, is there anything that Rachel has said that you find persuasive, or you really find that you really want to kind of take issue with what she's saying?
Right. So, well, I was originally on strongly disagree. So I'm trying to think critically and see if I can come up with another way of thinking. And so, there is the argument that there's an open-air prison and a concentration camp. And there's also trying to consider, are the people at the music festival, even though they're unarmed, are they actually innocent in the sense that Israel has militarized its population? Are they future IDF soldiers? Are they future prison guards to the people in Palestine?
So, another claim. So, put the mats down. Put the mats down. So this will be of IDF, military age people. So I would assume that babies, the killing of babies, cannot be justified.
No. Take babies out of the equation. I can understand Catherine's position on that because they could be future IDF militants. But here's the other thing. How do we know that Israel didn't make something more susceptible, like a festival? I don't know. I don't trust the state of Israel.
Okay, so again, we're getting into that, what I'm sure will be characterized as a kind of conspiratorial types of thinking, like 9/11 truth kind of things. Just saying, I know this is going to be the criticism, but getting back to the claims, IDF, so people who are of military age. So is Hamas's killing of military age, is that justifiable? Those are military age, even though they are not armed at that particular point in time. Okay, so Kathy, I'm going to give you you're strongly disagreeing with that. So it's not justifiable to kill Israeli civilians who are of military age. That's not justifiable if they're unarmed.
Right. So, like in the Canadian military, you cannot kill someone unless they are showing that they are going to engage. That is supposed to be the rule. So, if there's military-age people, but they are not engaging you in war, if they're just at a music festival enjoying themselves, then it's not justifiable to kill them.
Okay, so and you agree with that argument, that style of argument, and why is that an important thing?
Because otherwise I would consider it a war crime to kill people who are not militarily engaged with you in any sort of way. They're just sitting ducks, so that's how I actually feel. I could try and argue otherwise.
Okay, and Rachel, you just heard that rationale that Kathy has provided. Has anything that Kathy said made you move in terms of your position?
No, because again, I'm thinking of the mind of a Palestinian or someone in Hamas who, again, it is not right what they're doing, but I can understand what they're doing. Is it justified for them? Probably. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. So we're now at another point. So I'm just going to be collaborative here, because I'm finding these claims to be quite difficult to think through on the spur of the moment. So, what should we do to try to get to a better understanding? Is there a claim that you think would help us to better understand this? And this is, again, not agreeing with, or like, we're not trying to change minds here. We're trying to get at the actual reasons, the arguments, the evidence that people have for how they came to this particular position that they have. So what kinds of claims would help us more with this, or would there be a question that would help us more with this? What do you think, Kathy?
Well, I feel like we haven't really focused on the Hamas side either. Is it okay to kill Hamas children or people who are not engaged? Because I've heard Zionists or Israelis say that, the babies are just future terrorists. They raise them right from a small age, teaching them how to cut off heads and that sort of thing, so that they're just future terrorists. So that's why they're able to bomb civilians, let's say, because all of the citizenry are all terrorists to them, and they've all voted in Hamas, and Hamas has the final solution in their policy against Israel. So therefore, all of Palestine are enemies, whether they're this big or in the womb. So that's
Okay, so we need to have a claim that's getting at that a bit. So I think the claim is going to be something like this. If the war in Gaza was able to permanently disable Hamas, would that be justifiable? So it's not like, because this is often the kind of argument that I see happening, is that there's those who are arguing that this is actually an attempt at genocide, that's one side of the equation, just to get rid of people so that the land can be occupied. But then there is, look, you have Israel that is constantly subjected to constant violence and various things, and therefore they have a concern that there's this terrorist entity that is often using, and this is the other argument, is often using schools, hospitals, and so on as a cover. So if the Israeli action was, and go to neutral. Where's Kathy going? Where's Kathy going? She's talking to security. Anyway,
station or
so
No, it's my personal.
You know what?
oh, your personal page, and it's just called X.
okay, so
X
we'll see what happens with this. But Kathy is doing it, so Kathy's going to have
Oh,
to.
I understand what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my channel is.
Yeah, we were just walking by.
Sorry,
Like, how's
just
it going
talking to
today?
security.
We were just walking by, and it was just,
Okay.
is this some sort of course or something?
No,
It is
It's nice having
Spectrum
you here,
Street
though.
Epistemology. So we've just been visited by the security at Cal, and they're just wondering, they don't want to have any problems on their campus, understandably.
You guys aren't a problem.
And
We're
so
a problem.
No.
And so
We just thought it was a course, and we're going,
Get in here
what
and
kind of
tell us."
course is it?
And we are
Kinda cool.
It's called Spectrum Street Epistemology, and it is putting forward claims. So the claim today is the major claim: Israel has a right to defend itself. That's the claim. And then people who walk by, if they want to participate,
Nice.
then they stand on a mat, and then we ask them why they're standing on the. So if they strongly disagree, we ask them why they're strongly disagreeing. If they
okay.
strongly agree, we ask them why. Or if they're neutral, they just don't know. They find the claim is really hard to understand.
Right.
Okay.
You're welcome to play if you'd like.
We'd love to, but we've
They
been told
have
maybe
to
not a
remain
good
neutral.
idea.
Yeah, they're on the
No.
job.
They're on the job.
They're on the
We were
job.
just
Yeah.
walking
So-
by, we're just
We're
like,
here
what's
for
going
our
on?
students, but we thought you were putting on a course, and we're going, what?
This should we think this should be
Yeah.
part of a course.
It should be a course.
Critical thinking course.
Sounds
Yeah.
great.
Sometimes there's outside stuff going on, and we're listening in.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you very
You
much.
can observe. That would be great. Okay, so I was talking to a lawyer today because I'm going to Brock University, and Ontario does not have as robust protections for going to a university campus and for someone to just arrive at a university campus and try to have discussions. And one possibility is that you can actually we don't know, we haven't tested it out yet, but if they don't want you there, they can ask you to leave, and if you don't leave, then they could potentially arrest you, is the claim. It was a possibility. We don't know. This has not happened yet, so we don't know. But anyway, okay, back to I thought we might have a bit of a, I actually thought for a minute there that we might be being asked to leave.
No, they were happy. They were happy to see it. They were
Okay.
In fact, they were happy to see people disagreeing,
Oh.
not hating each other.
There we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. So we're getting a bit distracted here because I was getting all amped up at a potential intervention of authorities, but that's not happening. So what we want to do now is I was just thinking of so this was about, as we were saying, this is the claim. So go to neutral. I've got to do this properly. If Israel was able to eradicate Hamas through targeted actions, would that be justifiable?
Through targeted actions.
Through targeted actions.
Burn them to the ground.
You can.
Slightly disagree.
Excellent.
Okay, so Kathy and Kathy, really, it seemed to me, you really like the words targeted.
Yes.
So if Israel were able to scientifically pinpoint who the Hamas fighters were and went in, and some would say that's what happened in Lebanon with the pagers, although they did blow up in markets and stuff, and so they killed a whole bunch of people just hanging around. But if they were able to just somehow identify who the Hamas elements were and just took them out, killed them, that you strongly agree that would be justifiable. And why are you on the strongly agree side?
If you can surgically cut terrorists out like a cancer, if they are the type of people that are going to harm children and innocent people and cause people to live in fear, then, and you can remove them, obliterate them from all of time, and it will cause peace. I feel like sometimes war is an avenue to peace if done properly.
Okay, and so Rachel, you're on the slightly disagree. Why are you on the slightly disagree?
Because Israel created Hamas. Hamas is there for a reason, and IDF also kills innocent people as well, innocent lives. So I would consider the IDF a bit of a terrorist group as well. So you gotta understand the origins of Hamas and why it's there.
Okay, so I think there's another claim, so you're going to put your mats down. We'll go start to neutral again. Eradicating Hamas, if you could do that, would bring about peace in the whole area of Israel-Palestine.
Palestinians as well.
For everyone. Eradicating Hamas would bring about peace in the Middle East. Or eradicating Hamas-like entities.
Oh, okay, so that includes like Hezbollah.
Yeah, if you could eradicate the terrorist elements, that would bring about peace in the Middle East.
Reason for them because things aren't.
Okay, just a sec. Okay, so you guys are kind of coming closer together here. I'm a little bit. So, Rachel, why are you on the agree side?
Well, any terrorist group should be eradicated as long as there is peace and fairness for all people, all innocent lives.
That's not the claim, though. The claim is that eradicating these terrorist groups will bring about peace. That's what's needed to bring out peace in that area, is the eradication of these terrorist groups.
I understand, but what I'm saying is, when things do get unfair and certain people are segregated or separated or deemed, again, as long as it stays that way, there may not be a need for another terrorist group to rise up. What I'm saying is to keep it that way. If we can be promised peace and equality for all people in the Middle East, absolutely. As long as it stays that way, because I think in history things start brewing and coming to a boil with new people and radicals coming up. Absolutely eradicate these groups as long as we can maintain the fairness for all people.
Okay, Kathy. So you just heard what Rachel said about that. Is there anything that she said that would move you closer to her position?
So she's only on agree, and I'm on strongly agree. So I guess
More. I guess it is the question then would be. So originally the question was eradicating these terrorist groups will bring about peace. That was the claim, and you strongly agree. Is there arguments, evidence, beliefs, etc., that would be made that would move you more towards the disagreeable position?
So what would move me more towards the disagreeable position would be are Israeli actions on how they deal with Palestinians, Arabs, Muslims, are they creating an apartheid system that then will breed terrorism? So even if you annihilated it now, if they kept people in an open-air prison, it's a chicken and egg sort of thing. Like, are they keeping, the West Bank and Gaza separate because they're terrorists, right? Or is keeping them separate creating the terrorism?
Okay, so what we seem to have in these discussions a little bit is the cause of terrorism. Questions about the cause of terrorism. So in terms of trying to help understand people's approach to that, is there a claim that we could state that and then work from there? Okay, so let me just put down the mats and we'll start over. Terrorism, and it's a question about terrorism, the sources of terrorism. And I'm just wondering whether it should be qualified or not. Terrorism is often brought about because of injustices. Move. And so I qualified there. I didn't say it was always brought about by injustices, but it is. Some argue this, that it is brought about. It's the injustices that, and that would go to the Hamas kind of problem. Okay, so Rachel, you've got the agree position there. Why do you agree with that statement, which is terrorism is often brought about by injustices?
Well, you could look at homegrown terrorism as well. What creates that is government injustices, people who rebel and wreak havoc on a whole community, a whole city, bombings, shootings. I feel that the people in Palestine, again, they've been bred for this. They've been bred to be fighters and radicals. So they obviously feel suppressed. There is great injustice to these people. So therefore that does breed terrorism.
Okay, and so I'll get Kathy first and then we'll come back to this.
Well, to use an anecdote, and here, let's move this way so the camera can see a little bit. To use an anecdote, part of the oral tradition in my family is that my great-grandmother in 1905 survived a massacre, possibly a pogrom. I'm not quite sure about my background. But she said that, men on horses came in with swords on poles and just decapitated the men, and the women were running around and picking up heads and putting them in their aprons and screaming, and there was blood everywhere, and she went and hid with all the other little kids and survived. and then she came over to Canada 5 years later. So this is an injustice. Kids are also being stolen from the area because she was in the Caucasus of Russia by the Turks, all sorts of stuff. I'm not a terrorist, right? So injustice was done to my family. I'm not going to perpetually try and gain some sort of revenge on the descendants of those who perpetuated that injustice.
So just and this is just because you're here in Canada, is there been a perpetuation of that in whatever that conflict was? So there's people still presumably remaining in that area of who had these terrible things done to them. Has there been any kind of continuation of this grievance in that area? Do you know?
My family returned to the area, and I still have relatives in the area. Apparently I can go and see them, and I still have connections in the area. And everyone's just living their lives and trying to be as prosperous as possible, and growing gardens and making borscht and going to the hot springs in Piatagorsk and like enjoying their lives. So it doesn't seem like there's some sort of continued sort of revenge that they want to take on anyone or anything like that.
Okay, Rachel, you just heard and this seems to be related to the current Palestinian situation and Hamas, is that they not, perhaps maybe that, I'm just trying to think what a question should be or a claim, but it would sort of, I guess the argument would be, even though it's agreed that there's these injustices, that wouldn't necessarily have resulted in these kind of terrorist kinds of actions. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm not really sure how to answer, because I do feel like that, again, that part of the world has just been incredibly desensitized and created to be, again, these children are in an open air prison. They don't know anything else. They're radicalized. It continues from generation to generation. So I don't know, like Kathy said, maybe her family, didn't become terrorists. Maybe there's more civility there, but there isn't in this area.
Okay, so I have another claim. Go to neutral. Apartheid types of situations, because that seems to be what you're getting at. If you have apartheid-like situations, that tends to result in terrorism. Move. Okay, so Kathy, you have the slightly disagree. Why are you slightly disagreeing with that situation, with that claim? Sorry.
Well, in Canada, I would argue like the Indian Act and reservations is an apartheid system to a degree, and I don't feel like the Indigenous people of Canada are terrorists.
Okay, this is when we need a definition, agreement on a definition.
Right.
So, what do you mean by apartheid? What definition of apartheid are you using here?
I suppose almost like a caste system where people are governed under different laws, like the Indian Act or something like that. That would be apartheid, and physically separated with the reservations.
But if you can move, like if you are, like for example, that's the situation now with the Indigenous population, is that although they are on reservations, many Indigenous people live there, they're not prevented from moving to Toronto. Like they might not be able to because of their circumstances,
Right.
but they're not actually physically hemmed in like you see in Gaza. Is that? Do you think that is that? Do you is the actual incarceration of people, is that required? So that would be another claim, for example. Apartheid, the definition of apartheid requires physical imprisonment, sort of a certain amount of imprisonment.
Is that the case in South Africa, where the word I thought it just meant apart? right? Like apart, you're apartheid, you're segregated, right? It's not necessarily that one group is imprisoned.
Yes. So I don't know what the situation. I'm not sure what the actual. Certainly, there would be discriminatory. So if it. So like there's the situation in Gaza where you people cannot leave, like they're stuck there. But then there's South Africa, which was also, that's where the word came from. Were people able to move freely in South Africa? Were black people in South Africa able to move freely?
I'm not as knowledgeable on the history as I should be, but I think that you have to also argue, like, are there different states, for example, that are technically apartheid, where citizens of one state are not allowed to go to another state? So if they had boundaries based on cultural groups that happen to also be racial groups, there could be.
I'm going to see if I can get another bystander in here.
I registered apartheid and I'm from South Africa.
Are you? Okay. So do you know what we're doing here?
No.
Okay.
So I kind of deduced it, but I don't know if I want to get into this conversation.
Well,
Okay.
you know what? It's you're allowed to agree or disagree. No one's going to hate you for it.
Okay, so
Thank you.
just so you know what we're doing here is that this is being live streamed on Kathy's Twitter account, Moon Snail. And this is a method of Peter Boghossian, who's was a professor at Portland State. And what he claims is students, professors, people at universities are having a hard time stating what they think is true. This is a different. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so in order to try to break this open, we're just trying to get people to state what they think is true.
No, it's better now. It's like,
So there's a claim, and the claim today was the beginning claim. We got into the apartheid because we were trying to drill down onto the matter. Was Israel has a right to defend itself. That was a claim. And so, where would you sit? Where would you sit on this question? Would
Thank you.
And if you don't know, you go to neutral. You go to neutral if you don't know. So that just takes the pressure off. And you can just say, well, I don't know enough about this, or these terms are unclear, I don't know what's being talked about.
Was a right to defend themselves?
Yeah, Israel has a right to defend itself.
Let's say anyone kind of has a right to defend themselves.
Okay.
I not necessarily agree with why, but
Okay, so, and so that would mean, so you get that, and then say, so the answer to the question as to why you're on agree is because everyone has a right to, or all states have a right to defend themselves,
yes.
regardless of what that state is all about.
Yeah. I don't necessarily side with that, but I would say anyone has the right to defend themselves.
Okay, so when we reach this point, we try to figure out why, what the reasons, what the evidence are, what the evidence is for you to have that agree position. And so one of the things we ask is there any kind of evidence or arguments that could be presented that would make you go more towards the strongly agree? Like, first of all, why are you not on the strongly agree position?
I guess ethics, like ethics surrounding this scenario, but yeah.
So you're saying that you're just a little bit, you're hesitant because you're not sure whether there's all the conditions, like whether it's really a defensive thing or what, that kind of thing?
Yeah, whether it's defined as defense, I guess. And I also don't know enough about all the information, enough about the topic.
So what kinds of things would you would lead you to say yes, this was defense and not? See, because I would think that's what often you hear the argument. It's actually not defense; it's aggression. So it's pretending to be defense, but it's actually aggression. So what kinds of things are required to make a determination as to whether something is actually defense or not?
More information on my part to me. More information I could trust. More first-hand information. one perspective.
Okay. So, and I'm just trying to think what that kind of information would be. So, one of the things that we heard about before was that if this is one of the arguments that was floated by, I think it was Rachel, who's more on the pro-Palestinian side of the spectrum.
I would say I'm more on that side as well.
You're more on that side as well, but you still think that Israel's actions. So, new claim. So this is what we're going to do.
Just use the word defense.
Okay, so if you can go to neutral, we'll have another claim. Israel's actions on October 7th were ones of defense.
I don't really follow the news.
Okay, so you stay on neutral?
Well, I would say I most likely strongly disagree. So I would say I most likely strongly disagree from what I've heard, but I don't follow the news because
So you're strongly disagreeing with the claim that Israel's actions on October 7th, it's the various things that it's been doing is not an act of defense, or you disagree that's an act of defense?
I don't know.
You're not sure. So that would be, you'll probably be on neutral.
I don't know enough about this
Okay.
matter, but I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks a lot. Nice meeting you. Okay, so where did Kathy go? Okay, so I think we are.
Okay.
So,
We're just live streaming.
okay, Rachel, we just don't want to have dead air here.
Oh, she's a professor?
Okay, so Rachel,
Yeah.
what do you know what time it is right now?
We disagree on that question.
I just don't know how long we should go. Oh, okay, so we are at an hour point, so we should probably try to wrap this up because we can just go on forever. So it's okay. So is there something we should end on? Is there things that like we got into this a little bit. We didn't go that far into it, but we tried to make a stab at actually discussing the issue. Is there something that would, as a final kind of thing, that we could look at that would help us to try to figure out? And maybe I'll just end on something which is popularly said about. It's not on the October 7th thing, but it's got to do with Israel-Palestine. The two-state solution. So, the reason why I'm doing this is that this is often floated as the solution to the current situation. The claim is the two-state solution would bring about peace in the Middle East, or bring out peace within the Israel-Palestine area. Can you move to wherever you?
Can you give me more clarification on the two-state? What exactly that entails?
Okay, so do you want to stay on neutral and then we can figure that out? Okay, that's the easiest thing to do. So people who do this, if you get confused about the terminology and you're saying, I need more information to figure this out, the best thing is just to go to neutral. Because then it's like, hey, I'm just listening here. I don't really know, and I don't have enough evidence to whatever. So the two-state solution, as it is currently proposed, is I could be wrong here. I'm not a scholar of this area. I believe it's the 1967 borders. So it would be West Bank, Gaza, some kind of cooperative thing about Jerusalem. And that would be, you would have that would be, and you'd have to if you had the two-state solution, it would require removing the settlements from the West Bank and wherever is, I don't think Gaza has settlements that are involved, but perhaps I'm wrong on that. But I know this mostly concerned the West Bank, that you have, anyway, so getting rid of that, so then you would have some kind of sovereignty around that. You would be able to build up your institutions, but that would be your decided upon land base that you would now have recognition, international recognition, and ability to have sovereignty over your internal population without outside interference from, the Israel military and so on. So that is, so Kathy just came back. We don't have very much time because we're coming to the end. But the question is the two-state solution, which is often floated as the potential for bringing about peace, will bring about peace in the Israel-Palestine conflict. So Kathy has picked up the strongly disagree. Matt, why are you on the strongly disagree, Matt?
I think as long as Palestine exists, they are going to be a source of terror to Israel. If I were the queen of the world, I would have it so that all of the people from Gaza and the West Bank would be evacuated and absorbed into the greater Arab Sea or world, and that they would be separated from each other and put through therapy and all sorts of given supports. Social workers would be involved, doctors would be involved, all that sort of thing, in order to rehabilitate them, and then I would give all the land to Israel. That would be my solution.
Okay. So I am going to steelman the opposition. So I'm just trying to think of the because what the arguments are.
Right.
So Kathy was. Let me just make sure. Oh, sorry, I'm not in the frame here.
Okay. No, I'm like Slade Kerner because
this is not my position, but this is a strongly agree position. And Kathy, just if I could state what I think you said, is that you don't see any hope at all for people remaining on that area with Israel. This whole thing is not going to work, is your position. And therefore the solution to this is to have sort of the Palestinians, since we have an Arab kind of ethnicity, is it because of the Arab kind of connections? I'm just wondering why you think that is the solution.
Yeah, I think it's if they are hateful towards Israel, but they have they're able to get along with fellow Muslims, and if they tend to be predominantly Arab. I know there's also Christian Palestinians, so you could go through there and say, are you, find out if people are chill with Israel, and within the population be like, would you like to be absorbed into Israel? But if there's people who just have a deep hatred, that they should be given housing and food and supports and rehabilitated in a society that they feel comfortable in culturally and religiously.
Okay, so Rachel, you've just heard Kathy's comments about that. What is your? Is there anything convincing that you find in those comments?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with her. My concern is the uprooting of the. You said there's sections of the area that would need to be to migrate to another area for the two-state system, right?
No. That was not my. Kathy is saying that she's saying that the two-state solution will never work because of and I assume this is the case, the hostility that the Palestinian population has for Israel, and therefore if you want to have peace, which was, I believe that was my claim, is that the two-state solution would bring about peace, and she said that's never going to happen because you're going to have this animosity. So the way to deal with this would be having the Palestinians absorbed into other Arab countries and then give some kind of remedial type of approach, various resources and housing and all these sorts of things, funding that's required to enable that to occur. What's your response to that?
I disagree with that. I agree more with Kathy. I don't think they're willing to leave. I don't think they're willing to migrate.
No, that's Kathy's position.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. Oh, okay. So I thought, say that again.
So I think that they should be forcibly removed.
Oh. I don't think. No. Sorry. Oh, I see what you're saying. No. A hearty no.
Hard no on that one. And so, what is it that you're taking issue with in what Kathy is saying?
again, it's a claim to the land. It's a claim to where these people are from. Where are they to go, and why? Who's to decide that? And why would they make these people who've been there for generations to be uprooted and to displace them? Like I understand you say giving them resources and things like this, but why not do it where they are?
Because I'm trying to come up with a solution that would allow the least amount of bloodshed, in my mind, the least amount of death.
Again, you're gonna get people who are being forced out, which will again breed rebellion and create even more bloodshed.
Okay, so I think we're coming up on definitely over an hour, and that was I think we did drill down on a few things. This was certainly got my interest in. I think this we don't have enough time to go deeper into this, but the main exercise here is we have serious problems on university campuses talking about this issue, and we did manage to have quite distinct positions here, with Kathy being more, I would say, on the connected to the Israel, that's unfair, but on a spectrum of support for Israel versus, I would say that you're closer to the support for Israel, sort of pro-Zionist, whereas, I would say Rachel definitely is more on the pro-Palestinian side. Not the probably the most extreme spectrum, but still, we have a bit of a difference, and we were able to have that happen without us having fisticuffs, and so hopefully this is helpful for people, and hopefully people can see that it is possible, even on a very, very contentious subject, to be able to discuss things and to talk about a matter that is causing serious problems. So what we want to do is we want to, in my mind, on university campuses today, there are three issues which are the most difficult to discuss. Indigenization, which we talked about last week, and then we had Israel-Palestine, which is another very tough issue. The third issue, which I really want to talk about next time, is the trans activism issue. And I noticed that there was steps here. When I was over at the other rock, there was the pride colors on the steps, and I think we'll say that for the next time. But there is steps with the pride colors, which have of course the trans and so on. Anyway, what we want to do next time is we want to come back and we want to think of a claim that is all-encompassing, and then drill down on that with respect to trans activism. That is going to be our third Spectrum Street Epistemology session at the University of Calgary. Any final words that Kathy and Rachel have?
A big thank you to the student who decided to participate. He has courage, so I salute him, and thank you, Rachel, for coming out.
Yeah, no, this was fun. I didn't realize it would just be the three of us. I wish there were more voices that came out, but I think this is a very valuable exercise. I will say on my position, holy is Canada first. We need to stay out of these wars that do not belong to us.
Well, that's the final word on our Spectrum Street Epistemology session at the University of Calgary. I realize it is a bit imperfect right now, and I could certainly do a better job facilitating. So if you would like to provide any comments on what happened, I believe this is posted on my Facebook page, and you can just, or on Kathy's Twitter. So Kathy's Twitter account, which people are watching right now, if you want to just put some comments in the comment area, I will take a look at them and figure out how to improve our discussions of these contentious topics. Thanks very much for watching this interesting Spectrum Street Epistemology session.
And thank you, Francis. Thank you, Francis, so much for putting this on. Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot.
That is awesome. Like, I wish there were more voices that weren't afraid.